And joining me now to discuss President Obama's failure to deal with, to act, and end the current North Korea crisis before it could begin, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Fox News contributor, John Bolton. Ambassador, good to have you with us.
Glad to be with you.
There's no other reason that he could have been denying what was palpably true to U.S. intelligence 4 years ago, that the North Koreans had developed miniaturized warheads for their ICBM program.
Yeah, look, I think this is another piece of evidence of the politicization of intelligence during the Obama administration. His approach to North Korea, mirroring the policies of the Bush and Clinton administrations before, he called strategic patience, which turns out to be a synonym for doing nothing. And one reason Donald Trump has inherited this very difficult situation with very few options available to him is because of Obama's inaction and indeed, I think, acts of commission as well as omission that allowed North Korea to get to this point.
Well, and at this point, this president is now confronted by a North Korea that, as he predicted in that interview from 28 years ago, I mean, it's really extraordinary. Did I say 18 years ago? Suggesting that proliferation on the part of North Korea was at hand, and it would be far difficult for a president, hardly he could have imagined, I suspect then, that he would be that president who would have to deal with it.
Well, exactly. And, you know, this also is just a few years before the Bush administration broke away from the disastrous Clinton administration agreement with North Korea called the Agreed Framework that the North Koreans violated from the get-go. They promised to give up their nuclear weapons program. In fact, they simply continued it through more clandestine efforts, reaping enormous financial gains with the prospect of more from United States and Japanese assistance. They were paving the way toward getting nuclear weapons, much as the Obama-Iran nuclear deal paves the way for them. So I think this, sadly, has been foreseeable. People saw that it was coming, but successive administrations failed to deal with it. They thought they could trust North Korea.
We know now that Korea has a miniaturized warhead for placement on its ICBMs. And we also know now that they have at least two that are capable of reaching the continental United States, one of them the interior of the United States. How in the hell did U.S. intelligence agencies and presidents of the United States permit this to happen?
Well, I think this is a subject that the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, ought to get into, because the failures that we've seen here, the danger that we're in now, I think was replicated in Iran, and God knows what other countries may be going through the same scenario. They've seen with enough patience you can defy the United States and get nuclear weapons. So we've got to deal with North Korea in the very short term. We don't have a lot of time now. We've seen this failure for 25 years. Trump's got to deal with it in the next year at the outside, maybe the next 6 months. But these failures by the intelligence community are going to haunt us elsewhere as well.
I'm listening to, frankly, some of the most idiotic statements coming from leaders of the Democratic Party right now. The Democratic Party, whose president they elected in 2008, who absolutely neglected national security and created extraordinary vulnerabilities in our national security with seemingly every intent to open ourselves up to North Korea, to Iran. This is a striking result of 8 years. I listened to a number of former officials of that administration blathering about the next decade. They have a plan for it. It's just asinine. And yet, they keep taking this nonsense and peddling it in the national left-wing media. Meanwhile, President Trump has to deal with an extant threat.
Yeah, look, many of these people argued for years North Korea is not a serious threat. We can persuade North Korea to change its behavior. We can persuade North Korea to give up its nuclear missile and ballistic programs. By the way, we can do the same thing with Iran, and they've been wrong consistently. They're now the people telling us, basically, we've got to get used to the fact of a nuclear North Korea, because heaven forbid if the president were to look at any kind of military action to eliminate this threat, it would cause unacceptable damage in South Korea and Japan, leaving open the question, how about the unacceptable damage in the United States we could face from a nuclear North Korea?
And the effect of former NSA official Ben Rhodes, Senator Chuck Schumer. They're effectively trying to undercut the president's policy right now as he contends with this. It's abhorrent, their conduct and every word they're uttering.
We're in a crisis. People need to understand that. We are in a crisis.